Hi there, everyone. Welcome and thanks for joining us for another informative weekend edition of Jamaica Magazine. I'm your host, Theodore Henry. We have a lot in store, so please stick around.
Jamaica, I can help you protect our citizens.
Jamaica Eye will play a part in increasing your public safety.
Jamaica Eye is part of an island-wide network of camera surveillance systems designed to increase the safety of you, our citizens. If you have a camera system outside your home or office facing a public space, log on to jamaicai.gov.jm today. Jamaica Eye, we're all connected. The Ministry of National Security, creating a safer and prosperous Jamaica.
Thanks again for being here. We begin our feature segment with HealthWise, looking at the importance of immunization to protect children and adults alike. For those children going back to school in the days ahead, check to ensure mandatory immunization is up to date. Let's learn more.
Immunization is arguably one of the most cost-effective healthcare interventions ever invented. Since the first successful vaccine was developed to treat smallpox in 1796, vaccination has been preventing illnesses and deaths for millions of people around the world. According to the World Health Organization, about 2 to 3 million deaths are prevented each year because of persons taking up vaccines or being immunized. Through vaccination, smallpox was declared eradicated from the world in 1980, and that's a significant achievement. Other diseases are on the verge of being eradicated through the process of immunization here in Jamaica.
Immunization has led to a substantial reduction of illnesses and death from diseases such as polio, measles, whooping cough, and newborn tetanus. Measles deaths have decreased by almost 80% over the past 10 years, which again is a significant achievement.
Jamaica's immunization program has managed to eliminate a number of vaccine-preventable diseases over the years. These include polio, which usually left children paralyzed.
Jamaica had the last case, for example, of polio in 1982. The last case of locally transmitted measles in 1991, the last case of diphtheria in 1995, the last case of rubella in 2000, and the last case of newborn tetanus in 2001.
In 2011, the country recorded 100% immunization coverage for BCG or tuberculosis. Thanks to the expanded program on immunization EPI, which began in 1976, the population coverage against vaccine-preventable diseases remains relatively high. Under the program, immunization coverage for children under 2 years old reached 93 to 94% in 2010-2011. The expanded program on immunization provides free vaccination to children ages 0 to 7 during the routine immunization schedule of the Ministry of Health. This is an integral strategy to reduce child mortality and morbidity.
First, we give at birth up to 6 weeks of age BCG vaccine, which is given usually in the hospital setting, and BCG protects against tuberculosis. At 6 weeks, 3 months, and 6 months, babies are due a vaccine against polio, which prevents poliomyelitis, as well as the pentavalent vaccine or the 5-in-1 vaccine.
Then at 12 months of age, the MMR vaccine is administered to protect children against measles, mumps, and rubella.
At 18 months, we give the first set of booster vaccines, and we give boosters again for MMR. The children get DPT as well, which is for diphtheria, pertussis, and tetanus. And then they also get the polio vaccine at that time as well.
Between the ages of 4 to 6 years, children must get a second booster vaccine for DPT as well as a second booster vaccine for polio.
A lot of these vaccine-preventable diseases are actually quite contagious and can cause death, especially among our young children. And so therefore I would encourage parents to ensure that their children are appropriately vaccinated.
In Jamaica, children must be fully immunized before entry to school, and that is usually a part of mandatory school medicals due before the start of each academic year.
They have to present the immunization record at the health facility to confirm that the vaccines indeed have been done, and if they are missing any vaccines for whatever reason, then they are provided for them at the health facility.
The immunization record is part of the Child Health Development Passport introduced for every child in 2010 to replace the immunization cards used previously. As part of its public education initiative, the Ministry of Health displays posters and other material at health centers and schools, reminding parents and caregivers about the immunization schedules, showing what vaccine is due and when. Disease surveillance is also practiced at ports of entry to combat the country's increased susceptibility to new diseases due to globalization and increased travel. Across the board, government is on a mission to improve the health of the nation by making traditional vaccines available and exploring new and non-traditional vaccines to tackle other diseases.
For example, the mitigation of NCDs like some cancers, which can be prevented through vaccination, such as the vaccine for the human papilloma virus, which causes cervical cancer, falls in line with the Ministry of Health strategic plan to improve the offering to the public. And the commitment today is that we will work to ensure that other vaccines on the market with a proven track record are introduced as part of our routine administration to our population.
Mosquitoes will breed in containers that hold water. Tightly cover water storage containers such as drums, buckets, and tanks, or cover the water surface with cooking oil. Punch holes in all tins, plastic containers, and boxes to prevent the collection of water before disposal. Cover old tires or fill with dirt. Scrub all vases once per week to remove mosquito eggs, and dispose of garbage by placing in plastic bags. Do your part to prevent mosquito breeding. A message from the Ministry of Health.
An important document we all need, not just for verifying our identity and relations, but also for conducting many transactions, is the birth certificate. Those of you with children being registered for the new school year, are theirs in order? If you don't have it, watch this next feature to learn about the requirements and process for acquiring this identity document.
The Registrar General's Department, RGD, is an executive agency and Jamaica's sole repository of birth records. Every birth that occurs in Jamaica must be registered with the RGD. This establishes a permanent and official record of each person's existence, where they were born, and the identity of their parents. This affords the individual the right to an official identity and nationality, which is also the basis for accessing social and economic benefits. The registration process typically begins shortly after the mother gives birth in hospital or a birthing facility, where the relevant form is completed by a registration officer. The process is complete once all relevant signatures are affixed to the document and the registration fee is paid. Some parents are required to do a follow-up visit with the RGD for one or more reasons. If the couple is unmarried, they may have to visit to have the father's particulars added to the form. If a child's name was not decided at birth, the parent must submit a certification of naming form. The birth certificate will be issued within 3 months for babies who were named in the hospital. Where the registration of birth is done digitally, the RGD also has the capacity to provide digital birth certificates so that parents will be able to leave the hospital with the document. Beyond bedside registration, to get a birth certificate, you must apply to the Registrar General's Department. This can be done online at www.rgd.gov.jm or by visiting any of the RGD's offices across the country. When applying, ensure that you have the following information for the person or child on whose behalf you are seeking the birth certificate: the full and correct spelling of the person's name, their sex, date, and place of birth, as well as the parish. You also need the birth entry number, full and correct spelling of the person's mother and father's names, date, and place of registration. If you don't have a birth entry number, you will need to fill out an online birth search application form. The birth entry number is on the top right-hand corner of the birth certificate, usually 2 letters and 3 or 4 numbers if you have an old one, and on the certificate of registry or the pink slip. Complete the application form and make the required payment for either the express or regular service using your credit or Visa debit card. The Registrar General's Department lists the costs for getting a certified copy of a birth certificate on its website. The current price to get the first copy is $1,500 Jamaican dollars. Additional copies will cost $500 each. Normally, it takes anywhere between 6 and 8 weeks to process a birth certificate application. However, you can make use of the RGD's 7 to 10 business days express service or 3 to 4 business days express service. If you are overseas, you also have the option of asking a family member or friend in Jamaica to assist you with getting the birth certificate. This option is usually less costly and tends to be the fastest route. Express applications for overseas customers are processed within 7 to 10 business days, and ordinary applications are processed within 4 to 6 weeks. All overseas customers will receive 2 copies of the certificate at costs based on the region in which they reside. If the child was delivered at home or any place outside of a hospital or birthing center, the parents must visit the RGD with an informant, that is, a witness or household member, to register the birth. Ideally, this should take place within 6 weeks of the birth or up to a year, the latest. Persons who fail to register their children's birth within the specified year will have to complete a late registration form. This then creates a record of the birth, which is needed before making an application for a birth certificate. Among the information required for completing the late registration form are your child's first primary or prep school records, baptismal record, 3 statutory declarations, a list of all children born to the mother, and a certificate of naming. A late registration fee of $6,000 is charged for processing in 4 to 6 weeks and $8,500 for 7 to 10 business days. Parents will be interviewed as part of the application process and will receive a birth certificate when the process is completed, with the standard RGD service cost and processing time applied.
Nutritious food, succulent dishes, superior workmanship, and excellent service. Jamaica is on the go. Let's grow what we eat and eat what we grow. Let's harness the indomitable spirit of our most valued resource, our people. Let's support our local businesses. After all, buying Jamaican means building Jamaica.
Original.
To create real and sustainable wealth for our people and country, we must use our own resources to produce and market goods and services that consumers will buy. In our next feature, we look at one entrepreneur supporting the thrust for more made in Jamaica products.
Jamaica has its own peanut spread, farmed and manufactured in the central hills of the island. You may have it creamy or chunky with your bread and biscuits, or even straight from the jar by itself.
We are the Jamaican Peanut Butter Factory. We use 100% Jamaican peanuts as well as Jamaican honey. Right? One of our mottos is very simple ingredients but fantastic peanut butter. And we use only 4 ingredients as opposed to a lot of the import peanut butter. Uses numerous chemicals and preservatives that we should not be consuming. We use 100% Jamaican peanuts as well as 100% Jamaican honey to sweeten it, and then organic coconut oil and sea salt. As far as our peanuts go, they come from St. Elizabeth, and so we are committed to supporting Jamaican farmers, and we've been told that Jamaicans grow the best tasting peanuts in the world, and our goal is to make the best peanut butter in the world. I worked with a natural peanut butter in the States. One of my goals was to come down here and to help facilitate small business development. And when we came down here and I saw that there was no Jamaican peanut butter on the market, and I saw that the current prices for import peanut butter, I realized that there was an opportunity in the market for a high quality, locally sourced peanut butter. Support Jamaica, buy Jamaican. We currently offer original, which is more of a creamy style, but the original has a slight texture to it. So we like to say it's kind of like a homemade style. And then we also do a chunky as well, which has whole peanuts in it. And we currently offer it at John R. Wong's, as well as it's going to be in Lethusian's, and it is the health food stores on Barbican and Orchid Plaza. If you purchase 2 jars directly from us, we can deliver right to your location.
Want to know the law pertaining to renting a house? What about the procedure if you're arrested? Or what is defined as corruption? Then click on the Ministry of Justice website. It has information on every law passed in Jamaica. The House of Parliament portal also has the more recent year's pieces of legislation. The sites are easy to search and the files are downloadable. Make access to justice your business. Know your rights.
Unmanned aerial vehicles, commonly called drones, are now important tools in various occupational fields and even recreational uses. But do you know the operation of these devices comes with strict rules? Keep watching as we build our awareness about the proper use of unmanned aerial vehicles.
Drones, more formally known as unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, or unmanned aircrafts, are used by many persons for various purposes. In recent years, there has been an increase in drone ownership and use in Jamaica, prompting strict regulations by the authorities. Commercial drone users are required to get a special aerial work permit from the Jamaica Civil Aviation Authority, JCAA, each time a drone or other unmanned power-driven aircraft that flies without a human operator on board is to be used. This is important in order to address issues of aviation safety and security, as well as national security and privacy. Operators of drones and other unmanned aerial power-driven aircrafts must apply in writing to the JCAA, and the applicant must provide all details of the intended flight. The Jamaica Civil Aviation Authority mandates that drone users must not fly these devices at a height exceeding 400 feet or 122 meters above ground level. Also, recreational users must not go beyond the maximum range of 1,640 feet or 500 meters, or within 500 feet or 152 meters of an organized open-air assembly of people. Nor should these drones or UAVs be flown over or within 165 feet or 50 meters of any person. The guidelines also demand that persons not operate these aerial devices over a private or public property or dwelling without prior permission. Unmanned aerial devices should also not be operated at nights or during low visibility conditions. Persons are not to use drones or unmanned aerial vehicles to drop or discharge any item to the ground. The Jamaica Civil Aviation Authority's guidelines stipulate restricted and prohibited airspace where drones and other UAVs are either restricted or must not fly. In the restricted zones, drones are not allowed to take off unless a permit is obtained from the JCAA. Prohibited airspaces are designated where no flights by these devices are allowed. Some of the prohibited areas include Jamaica House, King's House, the Police Commissioner's Office, Jamaica Defense Force Up Park Camp, and the Petrojam Refinery. Restricted zones include flight training areas assigned to flight schools and the JDF Air Wing, Newcastle Training Base, and other JDF facilities across the island. There is a 5-kilometer or 3.1-mile radii no-fly zone for drones around aerodromes, as well as Norman Manley Sangsters and Ian Fleming International Airports. The policy in Jamaica is similar to industry practices in North America and the United Kingdom, where permission from the managers of the aerodromes and restricted or prohibited airspaces are sought prior to the issuance of a permit. So, for drone operation at or near aerodromes, communication is made with air traffic control, which will dictate flight times, which is included in the permit to the drone operator. All drone flights in prohibited and restricted airspaces will require a notice to airmen or NOTAM. The NOTAM is prepared by the JCAA and issued to the aviation industry in advance of the date the drone will operate, that is, 3 to 4 days lead time. The Jamaica Civil Aviation Authority demands that UAV users cease operation of these devices once a safety hazard is apparent and should not resume operation until the risk is resolved. All incidents that occur while using these aerial devices must be reported to the authority in order for the cause to be determined and for corrective measures to be implemented. The JCAA inspectors and law enforcement officers have the authority to intervene at any time. So, operators of drones and other unmanned aerial power-driven devices are encouraged to heed the regulations or face the penalty if the matter is brought before the court.
Our final stop in this half-hour journey is coming up, but before we get there, we take note of the rainfall some areas have been experiencing. It's welcomed for our dams and reservoirs, but it also provides an opportunity for mosquito breeding. Here's what we can do to help prevent mosquito breeding and their nuisance and health impact.
Mosquitoes are undoubtedly annoying, with their irritating sound and stinging bites. But there are more compelling reasons we'd rather not have them around. Several species are carriers of diseases and a threat to human health. Of most significance to Jamaica is the Aedes aegypti mosquito, known to transmit dengue fever, chikungunya, yellow fever, and the Zika virus. Only female mosquitoes bite, doing so to get the blood they need for egg production. And therefore, only female mosquitoes transmit these viruses.
The Aedes aegypti mosquito is what we call a timid feeder. So she's easily disturbed when feeding. It means that in one night, she may feed on several persons before she takes her complete blood meal. Each time she feeds, she secretes that substance. And in the secretion of the substance, the pathogen is passed on. So in one night, one female Aedes aegypti mosquito is able to infect more than one person.
The female Aedes aegypti mosquito is a prolific breeder.
One female Aedes aegypti mosquito is able to lay up to 200 eggs each time she lays her eggs. So one mosquito can populate an entire area.
The lifespan of the mosquito is around 3 weeks, and the entire cycle from egg to adult can occur in as little as 7 to 8 days. Female mosquitoes are ready to mate within a few hours after reaching their adult stage, and males are usually ready within 24 hours.
This mosquito prefers cleaner waters for the female mosquitoes. She will lay her eggs in water, and for the Aedes, it will be water which is in and around the household.
So while there are a number of things we can and should do to prevent being bitten, the most effective way to prevent the spread of diseases by these mosquitoes is to prevent their breeding.
The Aedes aegypti mosquito is a mosquito that breeds in a containerized environment. They do not breed in rivers and drains, but they breed in containers that can be found in and around where persons dwell. So come with us and let us show you some of those breeding sites. This is a typical dish drainer that we find in most homes. And under most dish drainer is a tray that collects the water that comes off the dishes. And believe it or not, we have found breeding in several homes in these dish drainers. Yes. You can see that we have water that has settled. If this water does not evaporate quickly, it can lend itself to the breeding of the Aedes aegypti mosquito. So you not only have to empty the dish drainer, but you have to scrub to remove those eggs. This is the typical saucer that we will find under a plant. The rain has recently fallen, it has collected water, and right now it is steaming with the Aedes aegypti mosquito. Do you have some of these in your home? Aedes aegypti prefers water that is a little bit on the cleaner side, and it's found in a shaded environment. So what should we do with something like this? It's quite simple. You need to throw away the water. And if these containers are not being used, you have to keep them turned down so they're not able to collect water. If you have them under your plants, we ask that you bore holes in them so that it will not collect water. Do you have these in your homes? We find these in a lot of hotels and business places. And we ask those persons, check these bird baths or any ornamental things like these you have in your garden to ensure that they are not breeding the Aedes aegypti mosquito. There are things like this thrown down in persons' backyard. Old equipment, old furniture, old fixtures that are taken from homes, especially during construction. These are also able to hold water. And if they're holding water and sit for a while in the environment, they will also breed mosquitoes. And so we have found breeding in wheelbarrows, in old refrigerator, in old sinks such as this one. And we ask persons, if you're throwing out these, please ensure that they are positioned in such a way that they will not collect water.
Many persons, when they do have their drums, most times drums do not have any covers. So there is a mesh cover which is so designed to replace the missing covers. It is lightweight, and what we do is just simply slip it over, and the mesh is so designed mosquitoes will not be able to go through this mesh to get to the water. So this is the ideal way. One of the benefits also of this mesh is that even when rain does fall, water will go right through it. This is a typical example where this we have is a plastic drum, and we have a metal cover here which is not designed for this. Whilst in some practice the intent is good, there may be occasions in which it does not fit or sit properly, and as a result you still have openings where mosquitoes can go right through and breed.
The mosquito is breeding right there in some very small places right around where you live. What is the habit we want you to develop? Once every week, search for and destroy the breeding sites of the Aedes aegypti mosquito.
And this is where we leave you from Jamaica Magazine today. Be here on this station tomorrow for more you don't want to miss. Until then, there are lots to watch over on our website, jis.gov.jm. So on behalf of the entire production team, I'm Theodore Henry. Take care.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.